Hello, Tuesday dudes. Tuesday dudes are full of woe because the week has far to go. Come on, let's start with a nice big PDF link, lots of lovely information in it. I've pulled out some sexy graphs and see if we can make some sense of the world. US household debt accumulation. The blue line is the total household debt accumulation, and obviously that's really based on the red line, which is total home mortgage debt. Total home mortgage debt from 2000 to 2007 went up from about 5 trillion to 11 trillion, went up 6 trillion in those 7 years. 1B, we have household real estate assets. Households assets as real estate, as in the housing that they have as their net worth wealth. And we can see from 06 to 011 it went down from 22 trillion to 16 trillion. 6 trillion down. So there is 6 trillion on the books that was taken on up to 2006 in buying the houses, and then 6 trillion was wiped off in the value. That is sitting somewhere heavily. Total household borrowing, I think it's hit the households. 0, 5, 6 and 7 was nicely blue and up and borrowing. 8 was flat, and now household borrowing is going negative to what it was. 1D, US personal savings rate. From 2008 onwards, the savings rate has gone up. A couple of big spikes, but generally much higher than it was from 2006. And that 2006 goes back to 2001, where it was very low indeed. Now the United States people want to save. I could spend a long time trying to explain this chart, but you will have come across similar via various places. I've pushed a few of them. I noticed that probably, I don't know if they put it together, but Stephanie Kelton and the other fella had a name underneath this chart, so it's a bit MMT-ish, but it's all in the same PDF, as you can see. Now, these are sector financial balances. Now, I can't go into explaining to people what they are if you don't know, but just to whet your interest if you don't know, and just to confirm something if you do, but under the understanding that it's put together by people that want it to look like this, but it just does happen to add up. Government sector in red, foreign sector in green, that's the balance between imports and exports, and the private sector net borrowing, or net debting up or spending. The first number, bottom left, is minus 5.29. That's government deficiting. Now, a bit confusing here. The green number is the export-import imbalance, and it's positive. So it has to be added to the minus 5.29. So you get 1.2 and 5.3 adds up to 6.5, which is the private sector balance. Next along, minus 5.7, but this time because it's a negative number in the import-export, you have to take it off, call it 1. 5.7, take 1 off is 4.7, and that is the private sector balance, and on and on. And you can see it just about works in the end where we are now, with the government in the United States running deficits of 11% of GDP. Take off the 2% of import-export imbalances, and you get roughly the 8.59 private sector. Yeah. These sector financial balances do add up. Just saying that what I'm going to talk about, or you'll see even if I don't talk about it, what the government does affects the private sector, or you could say what the private sector does affects the government. US budget deficit surplus, there it is, down to 10% of GDP, and slightly better now, or better or not, at 9% of GDP. The problem we have now is monetary and fiscal stimulus needed for the economy if we want to stimulate the economy. This is monetary stimulus. With the base, we know the monetary base has gone up huge, but that doesn't translate into money supply because the M1 money multiplier there has fallen off a cliff and is under 1. And in fact, is at 0.7. But don't worry, US corporations are doing very nicely. They had that dip down in late 2008, 2009, but they're back at it now, making record profits. But back at the household area, we have the labour share of income. In other words, they're making lots of profits, and how much of those profits percentage-wise goes to labour, to how much is being paid to the workforce. This isn't done as a percentage, it's based off a 100 number, which is back in the day, and it used to be well above that. In other words, more money was going towards labour, but that has recently fallen off a cliff as well. More money is going towards capital and not labour. Moving on to another article, but basically this is exactly the same information, just as in a Fed chart with Nick putting 3 red lines on it. From 1940 it was pretty flat at 65. This is at a zeroed number. The zeroed number, the 100, is in 2005. So we know inflation, the equivalent of inflation balancing. So we know we're talking with the same numbers, and the number was 65 going to labour up to the recessions in 1980. Then it fell to 62, and now it's fallen off a cliff even further. Less money is going to labour and more money is going to capital. But of course, if the money doesn't go to labour, they can't afford to pay their mortgages or buy sweeties. Third link, Economist's View. The United States of Unemployment comes out with a nice little factlet. There are more unemployed than combined populations of Wyoming, Vermont, North Dakota, Alaska, South Dakota, Delaware, Montana, Rhode Island, Hawaii, Maine, New Hampshire, Idaho, and the District of Columbia combined. If they were a country, the 13.9 million unemployed Americans would be the 68th largest country in the world. And the last link, number 4, France unveils a new austerity budget. And here I kind of talk on what I mentioned above the blog posting presentation thing yesterday. I don't understand this. There's something wrong. They, the big powers that be, want debts to be repaid, and they don't want any chink in their armour. All debts must be repaid. Fine. Okay, that established. As I said yesterday, growth is essential for that, or you do other things like inflation or whatever. But austerity guarantees that those debts are not going to be repaid. So the powers that be are going to look stupid. Now, money, different people have different ideas about what money is. My idea at the moment, what money is, it's an extension of government power. And government power is also an extension of money, or is based on money. You could say money is based on government power. If governments don't have power, let's say Zimbabwe, where the government loses all credibility and respect, the money loses all credibility and respect. And the two are connected. Money is based on the power of government, and the power of government is based on money. Governments, central banks and powers that be, that go for a silly idea like austerity are going to look silly. This is going to make their monies look silly. And that's the nicest way I can put it. A lot is being wagered on something, and I don't understand how it... Because you can even say it's normally the rich and powerful manipulating government. The rich and powerful are going to be torn to pieces by austerity. You can say it's the banks that are manipulating government, the banks are going to be shredded, marmalised by austerity. I do not understand what's going on. It could be just a realisation that the people want austerity to be tried, so they're going to try it for a while until everything falls apart, and then they're going to pump it up, pump it up, pump it up again. But for the moment, I have no idea what they're trying to do except damage their own reputations. And they'll be able to do that really very nicely the way they're going. See ya. Bye.